Hi, I'm Owen Hassett from Independent Trustee Company. I specialise in helping financial planners with self-administered schemes. Today, I'm going to talk to you about international pensions. The first place we look at in international pensions is Irish pensions and who can move internationally and what are the benefits for them. This graphic shows that a company pension scheme is by far and away the most efficient if you're trying to move it interstate. Movement of company pensions within the EU is governed by the IROPS directive. Each state in the EU is obliged to allow you to transfer a company pension scheme and to take a company pension scheme. Next up is the buyout bond. The buyout bond is written in law that it can move to the UK. Unfortunately, it cannot move anywhere else in Europe. The PRSA was designed to move internationally, but currently legislation is imposing a 40% tax on any PRSA that moves out of the country, and that makes any move unadvisable. A personal pension cannot move, and as most people would have seen in the guidance from Revenue Commissioners in November 2017, an ARF cannot move out of the country and is also a very bad place for a non-resident to have their post-retirement savings. When is it beneficial to move internationally? The first one is for people who live outside of the state. As we will have seen in November 2017 with the revenue clarification, an ARF is not a suitable product for anybody who is currently living outside of the country or who intends to live outside the country in future. The next one is people approaching the pension fund threshold. If you're approaching your 2 million cap, growth in future will be penalised, whereas if you move interstate, that can possibly be mitigated. Also, in estate planning, the drawdown in ARF does not suit an awful lot of clients. By moving interstate, that drawdown can also be reduced. Finally, the pension levy. We've seen that during a financial crisis, a pension is subject to attack from the government. By moving interstate, that can also be prevented. The next most common area of international pensions that you will come across with your clients is people who have pensions in the UK. The QROPS, or now ROPS legislation, governs how pensions can leave the UK, where they go, and how they are managed. The ROPS market became quite a bit more complex last year with new rulings out from HMRC, but if you are working with a knowledgeable, dedicated pensioner trustee, these complications are easily solved. There are a number of key rules that we have to look at. The first one being is who can move a pension out of the UK. That's quite easy. Anybody who is currently living outside the UK or who intends to live outside the UK in future. There are a number of key rules to take into account before you move a client's scheme out of the UK. The first one is that both the client and the pension will remain within the EEA for 5 years after the client has moved their pension scheme. The second being that the client cannot retire before the age of 55. We will discuss the technicalities of moving a ROPS internationally in more detail in a later video. The potential benefits for anyone moving a ROPS scheme out of the UK are quite similar to that of an Irish scheme. The first one is it is most useful for people who are living abroad in retirement. The second is the pension fund threshold, similar to the scenario in Ireland, although in the UK the pension fund threshold is only £1 million sterling. And the other main benefit for people in the UK is a more flexible investment arrangement. The SIPP market in the UK has become largely dysfunctional, meaning that a lot of clients can't fulfil their investment needs in the UK market. Moving along to non-Irish, non-UK, EU pensions. The movement of EU pensions is governed by the IROPS legislation. Anybody with an occupational pension scheme is entitled under the IROPS legislation to move their scheme from one state to another. The benefits of moving interstate under the IROPS legislation are specific to each country. Again, like Ireland and the UK, there are a couple of main benefits that people will focus on. The benefits to a client moving their pension scheme interstate within the EU are specific to each individual state, from the home country it's leaving to the country that it's receiving it. However, there are common benefits that occur in a lot of countries. Similar to Ireland and the UK, you have people living abroad, the pension fund threshold, and estate planning. Finally, looking at pensions from a US perspective. In Ireland, with our global workforce, we have a lot of clients who are either US citizens or green card holders. The tax situation for these people is quite complex. The double taxation treaty between Ireland and the US does not cover pensions appropriately. If you have clients who are either US citizens or green card holders and hold Irish pensions, they are obliged to pay tax on an annual basis on the growth on their pension schemes. The Maltese double taxation treaty with the US provides protection for clients. It specifically lists pension in the double taxation treaty, meaning that all growth on pension schemes is exempt from tax in the US. We'll talk about this in further detail in a following video. Thank you for your time.